Hi, this is Scott N. from VTraders. Today is Wednesday, July 22nd, 2020. I'd like to do a trade recap for you all and also discuss risk as it applies to trading in terms of R. Today I traded AMD, MXC, NTEC, and SNDE. I lost money on AMD and NTEC, NTEC. I made money on MXC and SNDE. Let's get into the trades. I'll start with the losers. AMD. I went short AMD in the pre-market. What I was thinking was that AMD was having trouble getting through resistance on the daily chart at an area that had touched 5 or 6 times since February. Yesterday was a red day, and I thought once again it would fail at that $58 area. Here is the 15-minute chart. My thesis was that it already broke the pivot low, came back up to resistance area, and looked like it was starting to roll over again. So eyeing the 56.40 target, I thought an entry below 57.20, risking 20 to 30 cents, was reasonable. I entered at 8:30 a.m. and my plan was to give it time to build the chart, but if 9:30 came and it showed strength over my entry, I'd have to cut quick because my thesis would be wrong, and I didn't want to try and fight, and because it can rip your face off when things are on the wrong side with AMD. So here's the 1-minute chart, and right after the bell it started ticking up, and I immediately cut my position by half because I was not comfortable, and then right after that it started to break my line, so I closed it out at a loss. I thought for a moment whether to flip bias and go long, but I had not planned for that, and this was not my ideal long setup for a breakout. Does it bother me that I didn't? Sure, it does, but I don't have a crystal ball, and I don't take a trade unless it has a bona fide setup, and I plan for it in advance, so that's trading. NTEC, I initiated NTEC late morning. It had been running for a few days, but volume picked up yesterday and looked like it would be even heavier today. On the hourly chart, I noticed a clear uptrend line, and on the 15-minute, I noticed another uptrend line. Also, there was a resistance area near 70 cents that it broke, pulled back through, and now was breaking again. On the 2-minute, I noticed a bullish pattern of higher highs and lows, as well as what looked like an ascending triangle pattern. I decided it might make a move upward, so I entered near 71 cents and left a full-size order at 69 where support was. It almost immediately failed after my second entry, and I should have just exited, but for whatever reason I let it hit my stop, resulting in a loss of 4 to 5 cents. MXC was a big gapper in the morning and had pulled back into support. This is in the pre-market. There was no news specific to the company, but the sector was strong. Watching it trade near the support area, it started tightening up and then moved back over VWAP, and I decided on the next pullback, if it pulled back, I would enter, and was only interested in holding this during the pre-market because I didn't trust the stock and it could easily get dumped on right after the bell. I had 2 targets in mind from the levels that formed in the pre-market. Luckily, I hit them both quickly. As it turned out, I could have traded it long again, but I didn't have a clear idea in mind, so I'm okay about missing any other trade. I found a setup that made sense to me and made a good profit, so I'm fine walking away. My risk was $1 max, probably would be less than that in actuality, and I took profits at $1 away and $2 away ultimately. Finally, SNDE, even though I did not trade this very well early in the day, SNDE was my best trade of the day and was also in the energy sector just like MXC. Usually when stocks like these gap up and or are parabolic in the morning, there is no specific news to account for it. I usually am short biased unless I see an identifiable pattern or setup to enter long early in the day. On the hourly chart, I did not have a specific level to risk off of, just a general area. I saw 4 1/4, for $50 and even $5. Therefore, I felt I had to split up my bullets on this one and not go full size right away. SNDE looked heavy, and I think I had a little FOMO, so I took a starter and I left an order at high of day. When the open came, they started dumping it right away, and I thought the top must be in. So I added again, but I knew this was a chase, so I still was not full size. Then out of nowhere came a really bad short squeeze. I had to make a decision because I only had one bullet left, and if I used that, I would be over my max loss I allow myself. I waited until there was another flush and then entered my last bullet near 430. Right after it started moving higher again, I started thinking about stopping out, but felt it would be the wrong thing to do. We've all seen these moves before, the squeeze, the stuff move. Also in the pre-market, I had already thought about 425, 450 and the $5 area, so I was going to try and hold even if I ended up losing a little more than my max risk allowed on this ticker. And if I waited until over $5 to stop at this point, I would be a little bit over my max risk for one ticker. Luckily, it finally came down and I covered half at the next support level around 375. Now I believe the top was definitely in since they squeezed shorts and now longs were getting nervous. I left two orders at the next two resistance levels to get full size again and hoped it would go up there. I got filled on both. I left an order to cover a quarter and a quarter at the next two support levels. It rallied again, but it was late in the day, and being after 11:30, I was willing to enter short one more time at an extreme, so I tried for 419. I missed, but noticed a trend line that had formed and used the break of the trend line to enter full size again. I covered a quarter and a quarter into support, and since we were near the death line, my plan was to hold the rest for an all-day fader situation. Based on that, I'm still holding this through the end of the day, or if I get stopped out. So to sum it up, I had two winners and two losers. But overall, I had a good day because my winners were bigger than my losers, and SNDE was much bigger, so that is where the bulk of my profits came from. So this NDE trade is a good example to use to talk about risk, specifically how to risk managing your trade on one specific ticker. I already did a video on how to risk in a general sense, so if you did not see that and you want to know more, go watch that video. So the way I do it is my max loss, which is a dollar figure based on a percentage of my account on the day, I call 3R. How I came up with 3R is I am usually most effective if I limit myself to trading no more than 3 tickers at once. So I am just taking my max loss on the day and dividing that number by 3. I allow 1R per ticker. Sometimes I use that full 1R risk on one entry on that ticker, but other times I might split that R up between 2, 3, or 4 times and space my orders at different levels. It depends on the stock and the setup, and it's a judgment call that you make when you plan your trade. This is really important because traders get in trouble or blow up their account or get taken out of the game usually only because they get themselves in situations where they over-risk. As long as I follow these rules, it would be extremely difficult for that ever to happen to me. On SNDE, this first trade was a starter, also known as a feeler, so it was just a fraction of an R. The second trade brought me to 1/3 R. The third trade brought me to 2/3 R. Now up here, I am almost out of bullets. I used my last bullet here. I did not add up here even though I wanted to, and even though it was part of my plan in the pre-market, because if I did, I would be now over-risked and feeling very uncomfortable. Maybe I wouldn't have been able to hold through this if I did. I covered half here because it was coming down to the low end of the range, and I was already feeling my trading was a little off since I was a little too big before the big stuff move. But that allowed me to resize in up here. Again, feeling confident that high of day was already set. From then on, trading was pretty easy, and I was able to hold all day, even able to add back in a couple more times. I hope you did good trading today. That's all I got. I hope this made sense. Please leave questions or comments below.